Hi, my name is Dan Lasota. I'm an instructional designer here at UAF eLearning and Distance Education. And today, three of my coworkers are going to join me, Janene McMahan, Sean Holland, and Tina Johnson, and we're going to talk about screencasting in the online classroom. There's lots of things to know about it, lots of best practices, and in particular, Sean and Janene will be showing special techniques with particular software and ideas that you can use in the class. We're going to begin with Sean. And I'm just going to turn it right over to Sean.
All right, thank you, Dan. Janene and I are going to talk about two different tools today. And I am going to start off with something called Screencastify. Can't get rid of it. Okay. So Screencastify is an extension for Google Chrome browser. So you do need to be using Google Chrome to use this extension. But the nice thing about that is that it will work on a PC, on a Mac, or on even a Chromebook. So this is a great recommendation for teachers who want to give students tools that anybody can use, and something that you can use. Let's say you have a Mac and a PC, or want to use a Chromebook as well. So, as I said, you do have to use Google Chrome. I recommend using that for any Google product that you're using. Screencastify is free, and what I'll be demonstrating today is the free version of Screencastify. But if you want to pay a little bit more, you can boost the functionality. You can record screencasts that are longer than 10 minutes. The free version limits you to 10 minutes, unfortunately. Although, our recommendation for best practices in screencasting is to make a screencast less than 5 minutes. So personally, I would not pay 20 euros, which is actually the price you have to pay in euros, to get a functionality longer than 10 minutes. I might record 2 if I really needed to do that instead of pay that. The paid version also lets you crop the video, actually crop the size of the video, trim the length of the video, or you can export not only a video file, a standard video file to Google Drive or YouTube, but you can export an animated GIF, which may be useful depending on your needs. Now, if you're considering...
So Sean, let me just ask you quick. So for free, you get up to 10 minutes of recording, and then for what we recommend, nothing more than 5 minutes, you get that at half the cost?
It would be half, yeah, half is free.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you continue on.
So the only reason, if I were to pay for Screencastify, what I would pay for, it would be the ability to trim the video, because a lot of times it's hard to start the video in a professional way. A lot of times we're fiddling with audio or the angle of our camera or something like that. And it can be really nice just to clip that little bit off the beginning and sometimes off the end for something that you're creating. Screencastify, because it's browser-based, it has an integration with Google Drive. It will also save videos to your local computer, to your hard drive. But it has an option to automatically save a video to Google Drive as soon as you're done recording it. And I'll show you what that looks like when we do a demonstration. The other thing I really like about Screencastify is that the output video is incredibly small. It uses a video format that Google is kind of supporting called WebM. It will work in any modern browser using an HTML5 video player. And the video quality is really very good, and the file size is really small. So this is one example. This is a minute-long screencast that I made a while back, and it's only about 4 megabytes. So if you're doing a 5-minute screencast, you might have something that's just 20 megabytes. So if you're working from home, you have a slow connection, you're tethered on your phone, you can still do a screencast and still put it up, put it in your course, put it online without having to come back to campus to get on Eduroam or a good connection to upload hundreds of megabytes. So,
Sean, do you have any good rules of thumb as you mentioned 5 minutes being a really good upper limit for attention span in screencast, but do you have any rules of thumb for bandwidth usage and file sizes? Or do you let the time kind of take care of the file size?
Can you say that again, Dan? Sorry.
Well, I'm looking for any kind of rules of thumb that you've experienced with the file size you generate of your video. That has an impact on rural users or people without good connections. And
yeah, so there's a couple ways. So Janene and I are covering 2 free options today. There are other options out there that are either a bit more robust, give you more power in editing, or are maybe have higher video quality overall. For example, if you're using a newer Mac, you can record your screen using QuickTime on the Mac, but that creates huge files, and I mean hundreds of megabytes, even gigabytes, which is great if you want really great video quality, but it effectively renders it useless if you're on a DSL connection or you're really anywhere in Fairbanks except campus or someplace that has GCI. So it's not something that you would have to think about with Screencastify. It's a consideration that would be kind of taken care of for you by the fact that it just natively produces really small files.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that clarify?
It does. And I'm sure your example will help illustrate that a little better.
Well, I'm not sure it will, but this is I'll just mute this audio here, turn it down. So this is a fake, I don't actually really like cats that much, but this is a screencast I made about cats. As you can see, it's 58 seconds long. It's in full HD. Well, not full, it's in 720p HD, which is actually what Screencastify will give you. But you can see that this file is only 4 megabytes in size. So if I share that with someone else, I'm only uploading 4 megabytes. They're only downloading 4 megabytes. That's less than an email attachment, really. So I'll do a really quick demonstration. Oops, that's cheese. Of what Screencastify looks like. So I'll go back out of the full screen. So Screencastify sits in your extensions panel inside Chrome. And it looks kind of like a piece of film, like a frame of a film strip. So you click on it, and it'll give you options to record a tab of your browser, which can be really useful because you might want to only record a specific web page, and it will automatically keep it neat to those dimensions. You can record the entire desktop, or it also gives you the option of recording just your video from your webcam, which it's nice, but I'm not sure how useful that really is. So we're going to record our entire desktop just to show you what that looks like. You have options to use the audio from your microphone or not. You could just record a screen with no audio. You want to select one of your microphones. If you have more than one, perhaps a USB mic connected, that would show up. Select a microphone. And then you have the choice of embedding your webcam. And what that means is it will take the video from your webcam and put it in a little corner box in the bottom right part of the screen.
Picture in a picture?
What's that?
Picture in a picture.
Yeah, it's like a picture-in-picture that you paid a lot more money for on old TVs. So it will record the video at 1280 by 720. So that's not full HD, but it's good. It's pretty good. And then you can also choose whether or not to show a preview window. That can be nice, but it can also be distracting. I know that I have a tendency to sort of look at that preview window, like on FaceTime and Skype calls. I'm always looking at myself, and I feel like a narcissist. But we'll leave that selected so you can see what that looks like. So we'll start a recording. It'll give us the option of the entire screen, or just this window. We'll go to the entire screen. And it immediately starts recording the video. And oh, look at that. Looks like my video is going to be in the top right part of the screen. That's interesting. Okay, so we'll do something. We'll go to a website. So this is the WebM project. It is supported by Google. They use VP8 and VP9 video codecs with OGG, Vorbis Video, etc., etc. Okay, there, I'm done. So I'll stop.
Sean, it doesn't sound like I really have to, as a user, really care about these specific codecs and these little acronyms you just spat out. I mean, if I want to produce a screencast for my class, do I really have to worry about those numbers and letters you just mentioned?
No, I was just saying words for my demonstration screencast.
Okay. All right.
So the screencast that I created is not something, the content is just there to show you what a screencast looks like. So it's going to automatically upload it to Google Drive. So you can see it's uploaded to Google Drive, and this is on Janene's drive. It'll show you the resolution, the length, the size. So I did about a 30-second screencast, and that was 8 megabytes. I think my resolution was a little higher than the one I showed you before, but that's still very good. But as you can see, I don't have the ability to trim or crop the video. If I go up to this crop or trim button, it's going to ask me to pay for the full version. So that's a choice you can make if you feel like those are useful features for you. So the final step would be to share this out. And you can click on that Google Drive link, which will bring you to the file in Drive. And right now it's going to be untitled. You can add a name, add a file name. And you can get a shareable link and share it as you would any other file inside of Google Drive. That is pretty much Screencastify. Are there any theoretical questions that you would ask me, Dan, if you were a participant?
I do have some questions, but I'm wondering, I think it would be probably good to get Janene's, what she's going to share, and then maybe the questions will make a little more sense. I'm going to try and approach it as a prospective instructor who's teaching a class, and I have specific learning activities that I want to get across, or I want to make assessments of my students. So I'm going to approach it like that, as an instructor would.
Good idea.
So,
yeah, I took a fairly practical, technical approach. So.
No, you were doing you were looking at it from the video, all those specific things. Which once you get into production, I know that you pay a great deal of attention to those things, and that really helps out the quality of your end product, especially if you're doing a long series. But oftentimes, I think quicker videos, when you want to show a simple concept, you don't have to really look at the fine control knobs, so to speak.
Yeah, but as my demonstration showed, you can make a 30-second screencast in 30 seconds. You know, it's in your browser, it's already there. You click Start, and it's automatic in Google Drive. So there's really not a lot of prep and production time to say create something quick. Maybe your students are having difficulty with a particular topic, and you're traveling. Well, you can hop on this, make a 2-minute long explanatory video, grab the link and throw it into Blackboard. I mean, in less than 10 minutes, even on a slow internet connection. So, yeah, that's.
Yeah, it definitely, the software and the technologies come a ways when you really had to have like almost a full production shop versus now where you just open up a browser window and did a quick record. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So let's move over to Janene and what she's going to show, and then I'm sure Tina and I have some questions for you.
Sounds good to me. Thanks, Dan. I'm going to cover Jing, and I really like this product. It is available for free from TechSmith.com, and there's a couple of different ways that I like to use it. When I was thinking about tips and tricks and free tools, Of course, I thought of similar things to what Sean shared, keeping your time down, just doing something easily, and getting it out to your students or coworkers. In the case of Jing, there are some great things about it that I like. It allows me, of course, to do screencasts, and I'm going to show you specifically how to do that. But it also allows me to just annotate anything. So I guess I came into Jing from the screenshot standpoint, where I wanted to be able to demonstrate or explain to either faculty, staff, or students a situation like go here and do this. Of course, now I do that with the screencast, but I used it first to just capture some information. You can see on my screen, hopefully, that I have a WordPress menu inside of the dashboard open, because sometimes students need to have a little bit, not just students, but need to have some information on how to categorize their posts so that they show up in the right places. And so I used Jing in order to explain a little bit about categories. And that is the annotation portion. But Jing also allows you to do screencasts, and the screencast that I'm going to show you how to do, it doesn't matter whether or not you are using a Macintosh or a PC. You can do this standalone download, so you do have to download it. It is software that will reside on your machine. But when you're done, you're going to save your product to either your device, or you're going to upload it to Screencast.com. And Screencast.com, you can do this with a free account. I'm not prepared with a limitation. I do believe that there is a limitation on the number of minutes you can store at Screencast.com, but you can store as many of these as you want on your own machine. And if you store it on your own machine, it is a Flash SWF file. So people need to be able to open it up in a browser. In other words, if you're giving it out to students as a link, you would let them know to open that up. Well, a link's going to open up in the browser. But I like using it inside of Blackboard. I got started using Screencast.
If I could just ask one quick question. Does
Yes.
Jing, the animations that Jing produces, is it limited to Flash, or does it do it in other formats?
The animations or the annotation?
The screencast animations.
Okay, the screencast is actually a SWF. It's a Flash file.
Okay.
But by storing it up on Screencast.com, then you're storing it there, and if a person has a browser that allows them to see a Flash file. You're probably asking whether or not people can see this on their iPad.
Well, the reason I ask is because Flash is a format that it's basically going away. Adobe's going to continue supporting it, but it's not available for browsers. I mean, for mobile platform.
Right.
And there's more of the platforms are moving over to more open standards, and even Adobe recommends using other things. But just a quick point I was wondering about. Maybe there's a way to convert from Flash to another format.
Well, I'm not sure if they're going to, but maybe Jing will offer something like that. I do know, though, you're right, from a responsive web design standpoint and also from accessibility, this may not be your best product or your best tool, but there are some quick and easy things about it. And if you are loading something inside of Blackboard, well, depending on how large it is, a person might be using their laptop in any case versus a different device.
Okay, and still that's completely, of course, it's completely separate from the annotation that you've done. Those are just single image files, and that's...
Those are PNG files. So the way that I got into using Jing is still going to be very, very valuable in terms of my approach to quickly taking a snapshot of something, drawing a couple of arrows, putting some text on top of it, and either attaching that in an email or putting it up on a WordPress site or putting it inside a Blackboard. That's going to still be the case for me. In fact, this is Charles Mason's photography class, and I did ask his permission to show you a few things about it. One of his announcements is this announcement letting students know that we've moved around a few posts. But another one of his announcements was about about sizing your images. So Charles Mason, the photography instructor, created a short screencast, effectively, with Jing on how to tell his students what they needed to do with their products before submitting them, so that they were submitting an appropriately sized file. And I'm going to turn the volume up on this. I don't need to, though, do I? Nope. Let's see.
You might have a little difficulty because of the way we're hosting this Hangout and producing sound from that.
Alt and click on your audio.
Come on over. It'll be okay.
So we're watching right now Charles Mason going through and illustrating the very fine details of how to resize an image for his students taking this class using this specific software. Is that what we're watching?
Yes, Dan, that is it. And one of the things that Charles Mason likes about this product is he was using Jing Screencasting to give feedback on his students' photos because it was allowing him to do grading more quickly. When you're working with an online class, sometimes giving people a lot of verbal feedback can be daunting, or how do you do that? I showed him how to do it with Jing, and then he discovered for himself that he could have Jing show his whole screen, including capturing the menus, etc. So this isn't just showing a tab. This is showing the whole screen, and he is showing students inside of Photoshop how to do resizing. I'm going to turn on the sound here.
Janene, we're getting some pretty bad feedback there on that. And now not hearing you at all. I'm sorry.
Should be okay now.
Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
You've got to say that at least once in every recording. I'm going to let this run in the background while I tell you a little bit more about what he was doing for his students. He was taking his classroom experience where he teaches his students in the classroom in a face-to-face setting how to use Photoshop, and discovering that he was able to do exactly the same thing on his machine at home. Basically showing the students everything about the file size, where to go inside of the Photoshop application in order to do it. I'd like to make a short screencast for you so that you can see how easy it is to use Jing for something like this. And I'm going to close a few windows.
No, don't close me.
Oh, don't. I'll leave that one up.
You can close everything.
I'm going to pull back up the cats, though. Well, the reason why I'm pulling back up the cats is because something that Sean was saying about the window in window, he'd actually demonstrated it right here. So here's my Jing product. It's running. If it weren't running, if I didn't see the sun there, then I would go down and launch Jing. You don't have to have the icon in the top. You can have it top, bottom, middle. These are the products that are available to you. The very first one is just for screen capture and annotation. And this is really small for you to see, but notice it's showing you the capture size. So if you really were doing something, say, inside of WordPress or Blackboard, and you wanted to make what you're showing your students 500 pixels wide so you're consistent, you could do that. But here I'm going to choose Sean's screencast.
So you're showing people basically the region clip tool with Jing.
Say that one more time.
You're essentially showing them the region clip tool. It will capture whatever's inside that rectangle on your screen,
Correct.
no matter what program's running, as
Yes.
opposed to what Sean was showing was a browser-based capture, and it showed only what was inside the browser window. It wouldn't show something right behind it or even in front of it.
Right.
You know, that's what. So what you see on your screen isn't necessarily what's being recorded. It depends upon what you're trying to capture.
Exactly. And there's a very faint yellow line around the whole thing. The second item over is the capture a video. So if I just wanted to do some annotation, the first one is capture an image. The second tool over is capture a video. When I do that, it's warning me because it's expecting that you're going to be speaking with your screencast. Certainly you don't have to. You could just show people how to do certain things inside of it. It will capture my mouse here where I can say, and here we see Sean in the lower right-hand corner, and he had opened up details to show you the size, when things were done, etc. But I can mute my sound just so that I'm not getting it at all. I can pause my work, and that's going to be important if you are trying to show your students something, a series of steps. I recommend, here's a best tip ever, have your tabs or all your windows open that you want to demonstrate. Do a bit of a dry run. So this takes maybe a little longer than Sean's Screencastify because I want you to do a dry run. That way you realize which windows do you want open, what else on your desktop maybe you should put away. Don't have your mail open, etc., because it will be captured for all time, whatever you're sharing out. And then you can resume your recording. Notice these bars on the left and right, that film strip starts moving again. So pause what I'm doing so that I can open up other windows and get those windows moved inside of my framework.
I noticed, Janene, you're exhibiting a technique where, since you have that region rectangle, because you're using the tabs in the browser, they're automatically locked into that frame. You don't have to resize or move the window around if you have like a bunch of separate windows.
No, but that is an important tip. Because I've used this product enough, I set up that framework to be the same width as all of my windows. I could have just as easily set that framework up to only be the size of this YouTube video. And then what would have happened is as soon as I clicked somewhere else, I would have only had a portion of the other window visible. Does that, does that make sense?
So what, it seems like these programs, and Sean kind of brought this into when he was talking about the different video formats, these two products are looks like they're fairly easy to learn and get moving right away. But like the game Othello, you know, Milton Bradley had the little saying, minute to learn, lifetime to master. So you'll catch on to some techniques, and probably midway through the semester, your midway through the semester videos will be a lot better, more professional quality than like the first one-offs you do at the beginning.
That's absolutely true, Dan. This product, like any other, and there are many other ones, just like Sean said at the start of our presentation, there's other screencast tools that you could use. We're just covering 2 free tools. This one, quick and easy to use. A little different from what Sean was saying about Screencastify in terms of where you're storing it. You're either going to store this on your machine, but then you can also load it directly into Blackboard, or you can show students a link to screencast.com, so you can upload it to screencast.com. I should have probably shown you that very last step. I don't know if I dropped out of it.
Maybe while you're thinking about that, I do have a couple questions here, and maybe once you're through, Janene, Sean can jump in frame with you, and me and Tina can ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready. I don't know how much more you have to show.
All right,
about Jing.
there. So here we have, because I actually closed that last one. So I want to capture a video, show you a little bit about recording it, and then when I'm completely done, not pause. Oh, by the way, it's telling me right here in the bottom how long it is. When I finish my work, I can play it immediately and see whether or not I want to keep this. I'm going to name it in the bottom. And then save it. I'm going to save this one right on my machine. And it tells me it's saved. I can open the file immediately. I'm not going to do that. But one more quick one. Back to cats. Back to cats. Here we have the cats. Stopping. Cats. Demo. Oh, no. I apologize.
You want to upload this one, don't you?
I did want to upload this one, and I've got a really sensitive trackpad. So inadvertently, I clicked as I was going past. Thanks, Sean. Here we go.
So
go ahead.
No, I'll let you show what you're going to show.
Okay. Do your recording. Name it, and then share it via screencast.com. Here it's going to ask for some information, so it wants to know whether or not you're going to allow it, and I'm going to allow it this one time, and it's going to be uploading it, and then it's available on my account, so I could link to it there. I prefer actually putting things inside of Blackboard. That's just my preference. I've also uploaded them inside of WordPress. Come on over, Sean.
Yeah, so let me start off with, I gotta get them right. And you guys, if you can pay attention to your mute once you are ready to respond. I'm going to start off perhaps asking the obvious question. The last thing you were showing, Janene, was recording a video of a video playing so that you could upload that somewhere and then put that in something so some students could watch. The obvious question is, why wouldn't you just show the original copy of the video? It's so easy to share a YouTube video. So what, maybe, and I'll give you a hint so you're not totally lost, maybe what Charles Mason was doing, in what application would that technique be appropriate, or when would you use that with your students? And I'm going to try and click on your window, but it looks like you're muted right now.
We're back.
Okay, good. So, and Sean, if you want to jump in frame there, either one of you could take a stab at this question.
Okay, Dan, and this actually goes back to something that Charles was doing anyway. For portions of his lecture, he did amazing lectures using Keynote and QuickTime. But for portions of his lecture, he was using some YouTube videos, and he would say to the students, please just watch up to 1 minute 3 seconds. Or start at 45 seconds of this video and watch through 2 minutes and 45 seconds. If you find yourself in that situation, that's the only time I would really recommend that you take a video of a video, where you're just wanting to confine or restrict down to a short portion. And other than that, I would just link straight out to the other video.
One other situation might be if you have a video that you want to give running commentary on, or if there is a video that maybe you cannot embed into Blackboard. Maybe there's a proprietary video hosting site, maybe a news clip or something, maybe something that's blocked in a specific country. That would be a way to bring in part of that, keeping in mind fair use guidelines, into a Blackboard course or somewhere else, and also to give context to some other piece of video content. That would be one reason you would record a video of a video. Otherwise, I would just link to it.
Yep.
How about the instance where you are just trying to give very rapid feedback to a student? If you go along the lines of rapid feedback in the form of quick comments as opposed to one long assessment, like 30% of your grade in this one assignment, it might take just 10 seconds to record a clip and tell the student that they need their white balance fixed, for instance. That's a real low-stakes way of showing them the content, your comments on it, and then giving it back to them really fast.
And that's a perfect example. The other thing might be a few small clips of video demonstrating or illustrating your point, where you're bringing in various different pieces. Then you might do a screencast of a video, but otherwise, just link to the video. Other questions, Dan?
Yeah, well, and Tina, jump in here at any point, but one other thing that I was beginning to wonder, maybe in trying to put myself in the role of instructor who's new to this sort of technology, what's the difference between doing a screencast, or maybe you can talk to the strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons of a screencast versus just sharing a video or doing a recording of you talking? What kinds of activities or content would you want to share with students, and which tool, screencast versus just video capture, are more appropriate?
There's lots of answers for that, I think. One is, I think a screencast is in a way more purposeful than a video of you talking. If you're just talking to the students and your face is on the screen and you're speaking, really the content is in the audio. The video really doesn't have to be there for the students to get what you are trying to teach them, which can be good. I mean, some students might want to put you aside and do dishes or something else while they're listening to you. But a screencast is really more about the showing of something rather than just telling. So you get to follow along with the instructor's actions rather than just listening to a series of instructions.
You can demonstrate something that the student needs to be able to do. It could be fairly technical. You don't have to be in it yourself. You can zoom in on one section of your screen and show them. Of course, you could also be doing a screencast where it's just your hands, etc., and you're talking and you're showing something with your hands. But again, you could use a video for that. However, with a screencast, the student could, if it's a specific set of steps you're demonstrating, the student could pause your work, see where you're at.
Yeah.
We're not all, okay, we're instructional designers, so we've learned some things like in the top left, you'll see this arrow. This looks like a lasso. So we say some things like that. In the bottom right, you will notice. But instructors not necessarily, or just a staff person trying to show somebody else quickly how to do something, they say, do it this way. Look here. Well, in a screencast, you could pause it and see what is it that they're doing. So
it's also, if once you get the process down, which is really very easy, it's a lot easier than writing out instructions. Just make a quick screencast, show how it's done, it might take you 3 or 4 minutes, whereas writing good instructions is really something that actually takes a lot of time if you want them to be really clear.
Days.
Yeah, could be.
With screenshots and annotation.
Yeah.
So maybe to recap, and going back to some of the material that Janene showed from Charles Mason's class with the resizing cropping, or changing the size of an image, he was recording some very specific interface elements inside Photoshop, changing the horizontal dimension in pixels, so forth. And that was really highly step-based. It was procedural. You have to go to a menu, you have to open the dialog box, put in a value, click the OK button, and that was a lot quicker to watch that and listen to Charles' voice than read that maybe in a...
Find out how to do something in an old version. So I would be prepared to throw out with the old screencast and in with the new updated version if that's the kind of content you're talking about.
Right. Here's another question from me. What about testing? I think sometimes as an instructor you get caught in the trap of you're the expert in a field, and your idea of what students already know or what they come to. So the idea of what you're actually showing, what's your experience with actually user testing a screencast to see if it's conveying the kind of information that's useful to students? Is that just going over the top, or have you guys ever done that?
Similar. I was going to show screencasting at our Google Solstice event, and I wanted to see how quickly, how easily, actually it was Screencastify.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over to one of our coworkers that I know, wouldn't have any reason, to have already installed it, and asked her, actually I went to two. I did this with two of our coworkers, asked them to grab it, open it up, and just while I was talking to them said, now I'd like you to do this and this and this. I wasn't really explaining. They did what I asked. I said, you've just made a screencast. So now I'm not going to say anything, and I want you to think about a problem where you need to show somebody else. And in one case, somebody was talking about banner, and they opened it up. They were able to quickly make a little screencast with this tool, Screencastify, that they'd never used. And it was then something that they could, instead of explaining over the phone over and over and over again, just send out a link.
Right.
That doesn't exactly answer your question, but...
Yeah, as for students benefiting from screencasts, I've personally heard some feedback from students that the ability to watch it as many times as they need is really helpful, and that in some ways it's better than being given a demonstration face-to-face, because I know a lot of times people in our training sessions, they really want to write things down as we're talking about it, which is, I know that process helps people to remember things sometimes, to write it down, but if you're giving them a video version that can be replayed as many times as they need, that I think can save everyone time, and it also allows students who need more intensive practice or just more time to grasp a concept, they can watch it at their own pace. I mean, you can watch things at different speeds in YouTube, so people have a lot of options when you're giving them a screencast.
Sure. Well, I want to thank Sean and Janene and Tina for helping out with this this topic. One mention to folks, in a way we didn't really demonstrate screencasting in the best light because of the nature of these Hangouts. There really isn't too much detail on the screen. We do have a lot of online information. I was going to say written, but it's in PDF and on our iTeachU website. And we'll put those resources right on this Google Plus page so you can link to them quickly. The other thing to mention is that oftentimes, in the interest of trying to cover a lot of material, we'll kind of gloss over some things. And so I'm sure there's some procedural things and little nuances of these tools and others that anyone on the design team can help you out with. So if you're in the Fairbanks area, I should mention that the design team has 2 open labs a week. One is on Tuesday from 2 to 4 p.m. That's right in 131 Bunnell Building, and the other is from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Fridays. And on most weeks, those are there, and they're walk-in, ask any question about Screencast or anything else, and we can help you out with that. So with that, I want to again thank our participants, and then we'll close it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, see you guys later.